Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
Dominators, before we jump into the show, I've got a very, very special offer for a limited amount of clients for a limited amount of time. I've got a really exciting thing that I've been working on for the past several months, and that is I am removing the red velvet rope, and I am taking on a handful of clients for a very limited amount of time to help you with your marketing. So to say this bluntly, if your marketing sucks and if it leaves you wanting and you want more, you know that you could do more, you know that you could be getting more residential as well as commercial projects, whether that is through SEO, through PPC, through YouTube advertising, through using interactive video, as well as using some more of the direct marketing methods that I myself have employed in my organization that have allowed me to do multiple seven figures, then you're not going to want to miss this, because not only am I doing this for a limited amount of clients, but I'm also putting my money where my mouth is with the most ridiculous money back guarantee that any marketing agency has ever put out there, because I know what I'm talking about. And more importantly, I can actually deliver on the results, which is an insane 200% money back guarantee. Now, let me tell you who this is not for. This is not for the window shopper. This is not for the tire kicker. We're not going to spend 3 hours on the phone doing a consultation call and trying to figure everything out about your business if you're not ready to take action. If you're in that camp, then stay in that camp. Find another agency, find another person that can go ahead and handle your marketing for you and continue paying them a monthly fee, never seeing any results. However, if you are a dominator, if you are one of those individuals that's ready to take some action, and more importantly, want to see results, you actually want to gap the competition, and you're willing to do whatever it is that it takes in order to do so, meaning you're willing to go ahead and revamp your website, you revamp your marketing efforts, and really taking a holistic approach to your marketing, then I want to go ahead and speak to you. So in order for us to even get this relationship started, the very first thing, if this is of interest to you, is you have to fill out the application. This is just so that we get an understanding of who you are, what your business is about, and more importantly, where you're at now and where you're looking to go. If that interests you, make sure that you head on over to restorationdomination.com/marketing. Again, that's restorationdomination.com/marketing. And at that point, either myself or someone on my team will reach out to you for a sales call to make sure that everything is good and comfortable and that we're a good fit for you, you're a good fit for us, and we'll take it from there. So again, restorationdomination.com/marketing. If you've got what it takes, I'll see you on the other side. All right. Dominators, what's going on? Buckle up. Today, we got an exciting episode for you. We are going to be covering a lot of ground. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. First and foremost, thank you so much for jumping on the show today. Are you ready to help us dominate?
Loving it. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Cool. So for those out there in the audience that may not be familiar with you, the name, the company, just do me a favor, just give us a quick little intro as to who you are and what you're doing in the industry.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'm Danessa Itaya. I am the president of Bio1. We are a crime scene and trauma cleaning business, and we're a franchise. We have about 140 locations across the United States, and we specialize in working with local law enforcement to be able to help get families back into their homes.
I love it. Now, this is really exciting for me because I haven't had on the show yet over the past 2 years a company specifically that does crime scene and trauma cleanup. So this is really, really exciting because I have interviewed tons of other individuals within the restoration arena, water mitigation, mold, and the restoration industry runs really tight with trauma and crime scene cleanup. And this seems to be one of those areas that they kind of struggle a little bit to figure out how to gain more of that business. So hopefully throughout the show, for those dominators out there that are specializing a little bit more in restoration, maybe we can get some little nuggets of gold on how some of this marketing and prospecting is done. But off camera, we're talking a lot about, just the overall mindset and what it takes to kind of build and scale a business and exit strategies and things like that. But I think I want to get down to possibly what's most important to the listener, which is like, oh, wow, great. How do we gain more business? Because it's kind of a tough niche to really succeed at. Most people in the restoration arena, they kind of play around with the trauma and crime scene cleanup, and it's a nice little additional revenue source whenever the deals pop up. But to make an entire business of that, that's a totally different game. So can you put us on a little bit of game on how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, without giving away the secret sauce here, but, I think there are a couple things that we do. One is the local contacts. A majority of our business comes from referrals. So we're working with law enforcement, we're working with victim advocate groups, we're working with city officials. We do everything from, what we call the unattended death, to, suicide cleanup, to homeless encampments. And it's amazing how much of that business is growing. Probably the more recent that we're getting a little bit more, seeing a little bit more frequency is drug remediation, fentanyl cleanups, meth cleanups, things like that. And so more than anything, I think there are two components to it. One is what's your digital online presence? So how good's your website? How good are you? Are you in pay-per-click? Are you on social media? And then the other piece of it is then just how strong is your referral network? And that's what our businesses really focus on, is locally. Let's make sure they know who we are, that we're there, and then we take care of people.
Yeah. So off camera, we're talking a little bit about some of the franchisees, not your franchisees. And again, I want to make like full disclosure of this, right? But you did say that you kind of answer these questions quite often. And that's, a lot of franchisees that I speak to, they kind of feel like when they enter into the franchise world, they're like, man, I bought into this brand. I believe the brand. It's kind of a business in the box. Their marketing is on point. I see their trucks everywhere. But once they're in the game, they're like, man, I kind of feel like they left me out to dry on the marketing side. And you had some pretty good insight on that. So can you kind of rehash that again for the public?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So anytime you get into business, I think there are two components. One is you need a really good systems and processes. That's why people get into a franchise, is they want something that's turnkey. As we work with our franchisees, they build their own business plan and marketing plan, and their job is to dominate their local market. That they need to be the brand name in that market. They need to know who they are and what they do. That is their responsibility, just like anybody else who gets into business, right? From a headquarters standpoint, from a franchisor standpoint, my job is to raise brand awareness. And so that's where, we attend shows like PLRB, on a national level. We attend FBI, National Academy Associates, annual conferences. We do things like that to build relationships at a national level, to be able to drive business then down to the franchisee. But ultimately, that business is going to, what's going to make their phone ring is the work that they do locally on their end. It means that their marketing dollars go further, because we've raised brand awareness at a national level. And so when people are searching online, they'll say, oh, Bio1, I see them everywhere. I've heard of them.
Right. Well, hopefully the consumer doesn't say that a whole lot. The end consumer.
Right? We always say it's horrible to be in a business where we say we hope you never have to use us.
Right. Exactly. It's but yeah. So talk to us a little bit more about how the importance of, for the local franchisee, how they should position themselves in the market. And I know that this business is very much relationship business, even on the water mitigation, mold, fire and smoke restoration. Like really, most people in our industry are either doing like program work, or, direct from insurance carriers are getting called out. So that they're kind of being spoon fed a little bit of their deals there. Obviously that comes with its own set of headaches. And then the other portion of their business typically is just shaking hands and kissing babies, building relationships, and kind of digital marketing and any kind of marketing, physical marketing, that's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit. Talk to us about some of the recommendations that you would give for a local franchisee and or independent, that they could do besides this time-consuming grind of going out to all of these networking events and shaking hands and just hoping and praying. Like, what are some of the things that, business owners should probably consider when trying to get their message out there?
Yeah, yeah. Boy, if I could tell you that the networking aspect of it goes away, I don't think it ever does. I think
Right.
that's the beauty of local businesses, right?
Mhm.
You're the face of the business. You're part of the community, and so whether it's sponsoring the local night out with the police, whether it's flipping burgers at the at the local baseball team, there, I mean, those things never end. Generally, what we see is that about 50% of our revenue or 50% of our business comes from digital marketing. Really solid websites, really good PPC campaigns, really good SEO, blogs, social media presence. So that's one component that maybe is a little bit less time consuming for the business owner. But then the other piece of it then is truly, how good is your BNI meeting? How frequently are you visiting your local fire station, your local police department? How are you celebrating Canine Appreciation Day? At your
Right.
local police department. So there's
That's
still
that's
still a
probably a
very
good one. I'm
active.
sure someone right now is like, "Hey, I didn't even know that was a thing. Let me just let me go ahead and write that down." Right? Get some
Are,
branded. Get immediately, like you say that, like I didn't even know that was a thing, but immediately
yeah,
I'm thinking like, how great would like some branded doggy bones be?
right.
Like
Absolutely.
super simple, super easy, and it works,
Yeah.
right? Of course, it'll be
Right.
chewed up, but who cares, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you think? Talk to us about some of the challenges now in the market, if any. We obviously know that restoration is this kind of recession proof business. We know that trauma, unattended deaths are going to happen all the
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
We wish that that wasn't the case, but it's just
Right.
the nature of the world that we live in, right? It's just life. What are some of the challenges or some of the changes that have happened in the industry, and more importantly, like where do you see the industry going as it evolves? Because even the some of these certifying bodies like IICRC recently added to their curriculum, trauma and biohazard and stuff like this, right? So obviously there's changes to the business. There's more eyeballs on that sector of the business. So what do you see happening there?
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. So there are a couple things, couple components. We talked a little bit about drug remediation. That is something that is getting, we're seeing more and more regulations as it relates to that, which is so important. I think a lot of times people think, oh, someone died here and we'll come in, we'll clean it up just like we would anything else. I think the biggest question is to ask, how did they die? If it's an OD, you need to know what was it, and was it a fentanyl OD? Well,
Hmm.
as soon as that blood dries and we try and clean it up, it becomes airborne, and now you've got an issue of a fentanyl overdose for your cleaners. And
Mm-hmm.
so, are you trained, and do you have PPE that is appropriate for that? And so, being able to make sure that the people going in and doing this cleaning, that they're trained, that they've got the right PPE, that they've got Narcan, that they've got all the things that they need in order to keep themselves safe while they're doing that. So we're seeing a lot more regulation, states coming in and saying, hey, these guys need to be trained. They need, whether it's IICRC specific training, whether it's, other certifications that are out there.
Right. Now that you mentioned the workforce, right? Let's talk about, because every construction or labor intensive industry has been talking about how difficult it is to find good quality labor. Now you add to that the
Yeah.
nature of trauma.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that quite literally do not have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
And of course, this also comes with a lot of existential crises and, some potential mental trauma to come
Yeah.
along with this kind of stuff. How does one approach employee care, like mental care, if
Yeah.
you will, and
Yeah.
preparation? Can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
So,
I love I don't know if that was a good giggle or a slightly evil giggle, but okay, well, we're going to find out.
so since I've been with Bio One, it's been really interesting. You find that there are a couple of different types of people who are in this business.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. It takes you got to have the stomach for it. But you also have to have the empathy for it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're working with families who are devastated. You're working with police officers who are like, hey, you got to get here within 45 minutes. We're on scene and we need some help.
Right.
I mean, it's just a very unique industry. I find that our franchisees and many of the employees deal with it through humor,
Mm-hmm.
which is really interesting,
Really interesting,
right?
right? Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
It's an amazing like preservation mechanism.
yeah,
I feel like you
yeah,
can't, and it's weird because like you're like, hey, you want to kind of be, you need to be empathetic. You don't want to
yeah,
like, be laughing and doing this and that. But it's almost like every time I see someone walk into one of those job sites, something
yeah.
happens in their mind where they almost need to bring out the humor or something
Right,
in order to
right.
kind of, compensate and make it bearable.
Exactly, exactly. At the same time, we've worked with different groups. Many of our franchisees will work with provide mental health programs. And that is mandatory for
Mm,
every employee to go through and to be able to go through and to be able to just whether it's quarterly, whether it's annually, and then every once in a while they'll have someone who says, "Hey, listen," they'll raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'd like to. I probably need a little bit more help."
mm,
And the beauty of mental health right now is that it's becoming something that people are talking about more, so
right,
it's less of a stigma, and they recognize what we see on a daily basis is what most people never see in their life. And
right,
so being able to either compartmentalize it or be able to have someone that they can go and talk to about it so they don't have to take it home, because this
right.
is not dinner table conversation what we do every day.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Yeah,
Right. And yeah, and the whole idea of now being in a time where we can kind of a little bit more openly talk
yeah,
about, hey, you know what, I'm
right,
seeing a therapist about this, or whatever the case may be,
right,
right?
right.
Instead of trying to find, back in the old days, like the answer was like at the bottom of like a Jim Beam bottle or
Right.
something. It's like not good. So
Yeah.
yeah. So but
Yeah.
what does that vetting process typically look like?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine that there's a lot more scrutiny when hiring someone than
Yeah.
if you were hiring them for a desk job, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
what should an employer be
Yeah.
looking for, and kind of making sure that this is a good fit?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. One is uh the what we do is more than just kind of junking out a home, and so for that we're able to charge appropriately, and so for that we're able to be a little bit more selective about the people that we're bringing in. We're not paying minimum wage.
Mhm.
We're looking for people who are trained and skilled, and so a lot of times they're part-time EMTs, they're part-time firefighters, they're people who see this, who are familiar with this, and so for that this is something that they're used to. It's how many of our franchisees get into this as well. they
Mhm.
they recognize that there's a need. It's not uncommon for us to go to a show, a law enforcement show, and they say, hey, you guys are my retirement plan. This is,
Right.
when I retire from here, I'm going to open a bio one. And
Mhm.
and then they have access to people who they know, who were cleaning techs or whatever for the fire department, for the police department. So with that they're able to tap into that network. You don't
So
need a
right.
lot of
So instead of trying to
employees.
find
Yeah,
somebody off the street, just somebody who's
yeah,
maybe a quote unquote skilled laborer,
yeah,
or tradesman, like it's better to go out and try to find people that have already been close to this kind of
right,
scenarios on a daily basis, right?
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But it
and
is
that would help.
you you do learn who's got the stomach for it and who doesn't, and whether we're eating lunch before we go to a job or after a job.
Right,
So
right. Yes, 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 yes. So let's talk about your ideal franchisee. Who have you noticed? Is there a segment besides like the EMTs and police officers
yeah,
and things of that nature? Is there a segment of like, let's say, restorers that you've noticed kind of picking up franchises and doing a lot more of that work? Like, who's your perfect franchisee?
yeah. Yeah. So it's really interesting. So Bio One's been around for about 13 years, and we've been franchising it for about that same amount of time. And generally, it was started as kind of a need that the founder was like, hey, someone in his church said, there's a member of the congregation who had died by suicide, and so who could help the family get them back into their home. And so more than anything, the empathy, the how can I help people is really what we see with a lot of the folks who come in from healthcare, they come in from different backgrounds. But the piece that more than anything, when we're evaluating a prospective business owner or prospective franchisee, is that level of empathy and caring, and why are they getting into it? It's a great
Right.
business model. I mean, this is, profit margins on something like this they're solid. And so with that, being able to say, hey, but you have to be willing to be on the phone with someone, when you're talking to maybe someone who's looking to get a hoarding cleanup taken care of.
Right.
You're most of the times working with someone who's probably got some mental health challenges there,
Right.
but being able to help them and be patient enough to sit on the phone and help them understand they're doing the right thing, and that we're going to come in. We're not just going to throw everything away. We're going to find out what means the most to them, and how can we get them back into their home, into a living situation. It's interesting. My background predominantly was in residential cleaning, and we always, we always said, where residential cleaning ends, that's where Bio One picks up.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go through and as you look at what people are looking for from this kind of a cleaning, it's someone who they can trust, and who, it's either a family crisis or it's a unlivable situation. And so you need someone who's not just coming in and saying, hey, here's our pricing sheet and here's what we're going to do. And, we come up with we drive up to their home in a unmarked vehicle. That's
Right.
super important to us, because
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I'm looking out my front window and saying, oh, the gardener's over there, or, oh, so-and-so's
Right.
over at so-and-so's house. Pulling up to a house with a big Biohazard symbol on it
Is not a good thing.
No.
It just that unwanted attention.
Right.
And I think so. Right. So now you're kind of at this crossroads. You're like, well, branding is really important, but then, I also don't want to show up to this person's home and have all the nosy neighbors finding out what's going on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so it's a balance. And so our businesses have at least one unmarked vehicle that they usually handle for any kind of residential, anything like that. But let me tell you, when we did the cleanup for the Mandalay Bay, you guys remember that the concert, and boy, we loved having Bio One logos there, because right, you want to know that Mandalay Bay sourced it to a professional company there that's going to be able to go and take care of and get that area cleaned up and back to being able to be used.
Right. So being, even from a business perspective, and I think that this is so valuable for a lot of the smaller restorers out there, again, having that balance and to be able to have a conversation with one of your customers or your prospects and be like, hey, because you're residential, this is how we're going to show up. That small little detail sometimes is enough for them to be like, oh my God, thank you so much. Yes. Because they didn't even know that was a concern, or they didn't know that later on that they were going to if you show up with this huge truck, Biohazard on it, that then all the neighbors are going to start asking, hey, Betty, how, what's going on?
What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. They don't want to deal with that. So sometimes that one little gesture.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
yeah.
And it also kind of, in a way, at least in my opinion, it almost makes it feel for the customer like you're really in it for them. You're not in it for you. Like you're not even there to brand yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's our tagline: help first, business second. That's how we go to market. It's how we approach things. I've got business owners who, their motto is no family should ever have to clean up after a suicide. What majority of the time homeowners insurance picks that up. But sometimes you're in a situation where they may not have homeowners insurance, or maybe it's an apartment. And so for that, they're kind of like, hey, we recognize that is part of doing business, and so we will clean that for free.
Right.
Or they create a fund.
Tell you, I love the fact that you said that. And now I'm going to put my own little twist on this, because again, for the remediation standpoint, it's a little less gory, right? And you could push the what you're doing out to like social media and use that as a cornerstone to kind of be like, hey, look, we've done this for this family in need. I don't know the extent that you could do that comfortably in the trauma and whatnot, but I've told tons of companies, I was like, hey, you want like an amazing piece of marketing, like the best marketing that you could do, and this is a quarrel that I've always had in our industry, because everybody in our industry, everybody, I'm talking to you guys, you dominators, you do this all the time. They're like, we're not in this for the money. We're just here to help people. We love people. Yeah. We're here for the community. And that's all great. And it's like all kumbaya. But I actually asked one of like our pretty large franchise, had one of the presidents on. I was just so tired of hearing this all the time. I was like, let me ask you, how much pro bono did you do last year? They're like, none that we know of. So I tell like restorers sometimes, like if you do have like Betty, right, and who's 90 years old and she didn't have homeowners insurance because she's on a fixed budget and she needs to redo her kitchen and she's living in mold, make an agreement with her. Just say, hey, look, as part of really being in this community and to really serve the community, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You just agree to allow us to videotape this, and to use this as part of our marketing material, and we'll hook you up. We'll do the remediation for you. We'll go ahead and put your kitchen back together. And that pays so much dividends long-term, right? From a marketing standpoint. Right. Now, obviously trauma, you got to tread lightly with that. But for all the restorers out there, like, I just want you to like really highlight that, because there's obviously companies that are in fact doing that they don't mind doing the offshoot, quote unquote, free project to really help a family out. Because in bio, even though you may not be able to ethically, right, without somebody questioning it, broadcast out in the open, that person is still your cheerleader. Yeah. If they're part of a BNI group or a church, or they work at a hospital, or maybe they're connected somewhere else, you're gonna be like, hey, you know what? Bio One did this for me, and they were amazing. And you never know what happens from there. Yeah.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And the interesting thing about it is that consumers want to know. They want to know how our business is tied to the community. What are they doing to be a part of the community and helping out? And so more than anything, and as business owners, it's not why we do it. It's not, maybe, it's great to get the word out, but more than anything, it goes against our human nature to say, hey, we do good. Yeah. It's not who we are. But at the same time, the consumer wants to know. They want to do business with businesses who are active in the community. So for us, it's really interesting. When we first, and I was talking to the group at 5-Star Franchising, and they talked to me about Bio One. I thought, I don't know if I've got the stomach for it. Right. But what was really interesting is I went and I read all of our reviews. Again, we're a unique business, right? I mean, Google reviews, they can make or break a business. Right. And as I went through and I read them, there are a couple things that I saw. One is that the average star rating for our businesses was about 4.7. Mm-hmm. That is so uncommon. I mean, in the restoration world and residential cleaning, that's just, that is not common. But the other thing I saw is that people are being named. So Robert, really appreciate that Robert came in and took the time to explain to my mom all of the steps that needed to happen and didn't cut any corners. Bob came in with an amazingly professional team who were discreet, and so when you hear people talking about names and naming people in reviews, a relationship was formed there. Right. And so I think that's such a big piece of our side of the restoration business, is just that ability to be able to really have that opportunity to build that relationship. Because again, we're not the type of, like you said, we're not the type of service that there's any loyalty program to, you're not getting a discount off of your 10th, cleaning. Oh,
could you imagine like those little like cards that they like do, the little punch hole thing? Yeah. I don't even know if I should say like fourth one's on us. It's like horrible.
Right. exactly.
Yeah.
Never.
Right. Never. Never. Wow. That's so bad when you think about it like that. That would make for like a good like Simpsons episode or something,
Right.
I think. Yeah. But so let's talk a little bit about mindset and exit strategy. Because one of the things that, again, everybody in the show knows that I have like what I call an onboarding form. Normally it's my way to pre-interview to kind of pick my my guests' brain a little bit as to what they think is important in business. And ironically enough, the more of these that I collect, and one of the reasons why I collected it was because I'm big on data. I love data. And I love to find the correlation between one business and an X and an X and an X. And what you find is they're all very tightly grouped, right? Like all successful businesses and successful business owners and successful management teams are all very tightly correlated with what they believe is the most important way of doing things. And one of the things that you talked about was mindset, obviously being one, planning for an exit strategy. So what I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time on that and get your thoughts on that, because I think that it's so important for not only new business owners that are entering the business now, but even the older business owners, right? These companies that have been around for 5, 10, 15, 20 years that came into it not really thinking about an exit strategy, but now they're at that point, they're like, well, I'm not going to be eternal. At some point, I probably need to go ahead and exit. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that. But before we do, let's just take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. All right, Dominators, if you want everything to gain and absolutely nothing to lose when it comes down to marketing, you're going to want to listen to this very, very short message, because I do have a very special offer for you. For the past several months, I've been working behind the scenes to go ahead and remove the red velvet rope to my marketing and provide that as a service, as the marketing agency to the restoration arena. For the past several years throughout the podcast, we've been getting tons of calls, tons of emails, tons of text messages, and it's always about the same thing. How can we get more customers? How can I increase the amount of money that I'm making based on my marketing efforts? Because A, my marketing company sucks, or B, nothing seems to work, or whatever the case may be, right? So bottom line is what I'm doing for a limited amount of time, for a limited amount of clients, is I am actually taking you guys on as marketing clients and literally giving you everything that you need in order to be successful. And more importantly, I'm actually backing this up, putting my money where my mouth is, which no other company is doing. And that is offering the most insane money back guarantee. And to be more specific, a 200% money back guarantee. If we don't perform, we don't show you what we need to show you, you don't even pay. So you get the marketing for free, plus you make money just for saying yes. Literally for you, this is a win everything and absolutely nothing to lose. There is nowhere where you can lose on this deal. Either way, you're going to walk out an absolute champion. However, I do have some restraints as to who we're bringing on with this deal. It's not about how big your company is or how much revenue it is that you're doing. It's simply about filling out the application first so that I can get an idea of who you are, what you're looking to do, and what direction your company's going in. And the second criteria is you cannot be a window shopper. You cannot be a tire kicker. I'm only looking to go ahead and work with a certain type of client that's able to go ahead and look at the facts and make a decision right then and there, because frankly, you don't have the time to be wasted, and I don't have the time to be wasted, because at the end of the day, we've all got bigger fish to fry, and this just so happens to be some of it. And because we're only doing this for a handful of clients out of everybody that listens to the show, trust me when I tell you, these opportunities are going to go ahead and fill out fast, and someone you're in your competitive market might take me up on this, and that'll be the end of it. So the bottom line is, if you want to go ahead and participate and have us take a look at your organization and jump on a discovery call, a sales call, consulting call, whatever it is that you want to go ahead and call it, the first step is jump on to restorationdomination.com/marketing, fill out the application, let us know exactly who you are, what you're looking to do. And then from there, we'll go ahead and either someone on my team or myself will get in contact with you, and we'll take it from there. All right. All right, guys. And we are back talking about the mindset and the exit strategy. Take it away.
Awesome.
What comes first, exit strategy or mindset?
They go hand in hand, right?
Right.
So one of the things that we do when we bring in a new franchisee, they work very closely with our onboarding specialist. One of the very first things they talk about is, one, what's your exit strategy? It's helpful as we build a business plan with together that we understand what their goals are. And people say, oh, I have no exit strategy, I'm going to do this until I die. And I
Right.
say, okay, but then what happens? Then what happens to your business?
Mhm.
And so being able to have that discussion early on, it helps us build a business plan. It helps us identify how much capital they're going to need to get there. It helps us understand what kind of trajectory. Some people say, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this part-time, I'm going to hold on to my job, and eventually my goal is to do it full-time and support my family and retire from my job and then pass this down to my kids.
Mhm.
Other people are like, I'm going to hold on to this for 5 years, I'm going to get it to to 2 million in revenue, and I'm going to sell it.
Right.
And or I'm going to own 7 of these or 10 of
Mhm.
these,
Right.
and so being able to understand kind of what that exit strategy means is it helps from a support standpoint, which is why people also get into a franchise. Is when you're in business by yourself, it's kind of like, I got to make all the decisions here.
Right.
But when you're in a franchise, you've got a whole group of people you can say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Has
Mhm.
anybody done this before, and what should I learn from that? And so being able to really start with that. So we start with that, and that is the business plan that we go back to with them repeatedly every year as we work with them on their next year plan. Okay, is your exit strategy still the same?
Mhm.
And okay, what do we need to do to help plan? As they come to us with ideas and they say, hey, I want to do this, does this align with your exit strategy? The other piece that we look for as they come into the business is having that growth mindset as
Mhm.
well. Growth mindset is huge. It's huge. I find that in this world, there are two kinds of people. There are people with kind of that doer attitude. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. And then there are kind of the people who know. They're kind of the knowers. They're like, well, I know I should do this, or I know about this, and so I'm going to think about it. And they're it's harder to take action, you know? And so for me, I look for people who are doers because they're just like, hey, I'm going to keep moving forward, and this is my business plan, and I'm going to check in with a few people and say, hey, is this legit? Does this sound right? And am I on the right path? And making sure that they're looking at their marketing, and they're building their team and their infrastructure to be able to help them get to a point where they're going to exit. Most people get into business, right, to they'll do it until they enjoy it, and they build it up, and then eventually they'll want to sell it. And for people who say, hey, wake up in the morning and say, hey, I think today is the day to sell my business, helping them understand that give yourself 6 months to a year to really put together a plan to sell, if that's the intent.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, well, I'd like to be done by the end of the month. And we say,
Mhm.
well, that's hard.
Right. Right. Well, a lot of people don't even consider what they would do after, right? 5, 6,
Right?
10 years, 15 years of that being your grind, even if you don't like it. Like, even if
Right?
you're like not happy and you're waking up
Yeah.
depressed every day for whatever reason,
Yeah.
right? Because there's happy business owners and depressed business owners and everything in
Yeah.
between. Like,
Yeah.
if you just like all of a sudden just sold it tomorrow, you're like, now I'm really depressed. Like, I thought I was depressed before. Now I'm really depressed. At least I had something to like look forward to in a way. I was like, what kind of shitstorm is going to happen today? But yeah, a lot of people don't have not just the business exit plan, but like their own personal exit plan.
Right.
Like, mentally, what
Yeah.
are we going to do afterwards?
And the reality is the beach is fun for maybe 2 months, and then
And I think
and then
you
you
were
got to do
generous with
something.
2 months, and I'm in, you know,
Yeah, yeah. That I think that's the most I could take.
yeah, probably.
um,
Probably. I
knowing
mean,
that
I could
there's an
take a
end.
week only because I already live in Florida. And for anybody who lives in Florida and they get like these summer heats, it's like, okay, you're out there for like a couple of hours and you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. I got my
Yeah,
fill.
yeah.
Here's a question. Why one? Like, that to me would be like the big question. Like, if I was listening to this show, I'd be like, okay, well, we know that Biohazard is a big market. We know that it's recession proof. We know that the margins are due to the nature of the business. We know that it's amazing. Why don't I just pick up and just do it myself? right?
Oh, absolutely.
Or why Bio One? Like, why should I align? If I already have a restoration company, why should I align with Bio One and maybe make my life a little bit easier? I mean, is that even
Yeah.
part of the equation?
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually do a survey every year with our we engage a third party to go out and survey our franchisees and ask them exactly that question.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
why Bio One? And the thing that comes back consistently is and like you said, you can start your own business and do it on your own, and you kind of learn. There are some great resources out there, Facebook groups, all sorts of things that that we see out there. But the thing that comes back consistently from our network is they love being part of a group of, they love being a part of Bio One. They love being able to have people that they can say, hey, has anybody encountered this? And what did you do about this? Or, hey, I want to go and represent at this show here in Maricopa County. Anybody else want to come with me and represent? They like that camaraderie. We recognize our top achievers and we take them to somewhere warm and sunny and beachy. And it's the favorite part is not just that they won this trip, but that they get to hang out with the best of the best and bounce ideas off of them and say, hey, how do you do this? Or at what point did you add this person, add this team member? Or what kind of marketing are you doing? And what's making your phone ring? Or what insurance companies have you really found have been great relationships for you? And so having that network available to them, whether it's through our Facebook group or whether it's a phone call or whether it's through some of our recognition programs, they get that. So from a still being a part of something, but owning your own business, there's a huge attraction to that. That is always the thing that ranks the highest on those surveys.
How easy, because we were talking about the exit strategy, and I know that a lot of our people, like, they're building their businesses and they do have kind of an exit strategy in mind. How does an exit strategy work when it's part of a franchise as opposed to an independent? Is it smoother? Is it not smoother? Is there more red tape? Like, how does that work?
Oh, I'm sure there's more red tape. More than anything, there are systems and there are processes. One of the things that makes it easier is obviously it's like, hey, it's an established business with a brand name that people may or may not be more familiar with relationships already established there, whether people lived in California or whether they lived in New York, they would recognize the Bio One name. But then they get the added advantage of us being able to also lend eyes on who this candidate is that is going to buy their business. And we can coach the seller to be able to say, hey, this is what we've generally see Bio Ones sell for. This kind of multiple. And so where do you fall in that? We don't ever tell them how to, what price they should sell or anything like that. But they do still have to qualify. They have to meet our minimum requirements to join the brand, and they've got to make sure that they fit our core values and our company culture. It's a 10-year franchise agreement. Sometimes that's longer than some marriages. And so making sure that you find the right people to join your brand is important. But then the beauty of it is they don't have to do the training. We'll do the training for them. They don't, they don't have to go and create a new website. We've already got that taken care of for them. We've got marketing plans for them. We've got support teams here. So it makes it a little bit easier. It allows them to transition out of the business at whatever time frame.
Awesome. If someone wanted to get more information about, hey, I've been kicking around the idea of getting into that particular sector of the market, and I haven't done so yet. And maybe it's been fear that's in the way. Maybe it's because I'm really good at water mitigation or mold or fire and smoke. It was kind of been like this taboo thing. Maybe this would be a good add-on to my existing business. Where should they go to, or who should they reach out to find some additional information and kind of get the wheels going?
Absolutely. They can reach out to bio1inc.com and start the process that way. It'll give them a little bit of information and it'll put them in contact with our team here.
Awesome. And by the way, Dominators, I am going to have a link in the video description as well as in the show notes. if you want to go ahead and take a look at that and maybe add on these particular services to your business as well. Final thoughts. What book right now is it that you're currently reading that you would recommend for the audience to read?
So, when you do this, you get to read for fun, and then you get to read for business, right?
Right.
My business book that I'm reading, that I've loved, and I'm actually reading it a second time, is called the Culture Code, and it's awesome, and it gives lots of examples. And I can't remember who wrote it, but if you just go to Audible or any of those, you'll find it. But it's a great examples of how adults learn and how you build and maintain really good culture, whether it's in your company, in your family, or whatever. But for fun, I'm reading The Alchemist, and I think I
love
read
that book.
it. Isn't it a great book?
It's a great book, actually. And so I'm bilingual. My first language is actually Spanish. The first time I read it in Spanish. And for some reason, it's just a little bit more romanticized and just like hits a little bit nicer in Spanish. But it was, what a great book. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure I read it in high school, but it was one of those that it came up on the list, and I'm like, I got to read that one again. And it's just there, there are little sound bites in there that I'm like, that's a life lesson. I mean, that is its own meme in itself.
Yeah.
So
I love books like that, like the parable style books. Those are always great. One of my all-time favorite books, as a matter of fact, on our website, like on our book recommendations, the very first one, I think, and if it's not, it should be, and I'll make sure that it is, but because it's my favorite one, it's The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And it's a very tiny little book. Have you ever read that one?
No, I'm going to read it.
Oh my God, it's a great book. And it's a tiny little book, and it's kind of written in that style. It's like a parable style book. And yeah, to me, like that's like the one book that I recommend. Like, anybody's like, what book should I read? And I was like, out of all the business books in the world, that's probably the first one. Like that should be like your foundation. The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And it's got like 10 scrolls. As a matter of fact, if you look up on Google, Og Mandino, Greatest Salesman in the World scrolls, it'll give you, like, the people have printed out like PDFs of these scrolls. And basically it's, even though it's a tiny little book, you're supposed to take one scroll per month and read it 3 times a day. Right. And it's like all about like mindset and like, I will greet this day with love in my heart. So that's one. And it goes through like this little story, and it would say like, I will persist until I succeed. And like, so basically it's like this mindset hack about how to just show up in the world. And that's like one of those, like, it's right up there for me with the Alchemist. So if you haven't checked that one out, definitely check it out. It's great.
That's perfect. I need a book club recommendation. And I'm up in the next couple months. So
if you want a book club recommendation, and as a matter of fact, so this is going to be for all those dominators out there as well. I recently came across, as a matter of fact, please hold. All right. So I recently came across this right here, which is called Secrets of Success. And it is a monthly membership, right, from this individual named Russell Brunson, which, for those who don't know who Russell Brunson is, he is the founder of ClickFunnels. And he is a, what do you call these people that are obsessed with books? A bibliophile? Is that right? Yeah. So anyways, so he's gone around and I always have like 15 books on my desk. Yeah. He's gone around and he's picked up all of the original works of Napoleon Hill. I'm talking about all of the original works, with his handwriting, with his notes, stuff that was never published before. I just was reading one that he put into the book club. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put it up so that I can give the title of what it was. How to Get Anything You Want is the name of the book, by Elise Lincoln Benedict. So anyways, these are like non-published stuff for like a small, like, monthly fee. Not only do you get access to like the audio plus some of these never before published books from his like multi-million-dollar collection. It's just insane. But that it also comes with like study guides and videos and discussions on the book matter. So like, if you're a little bit of like a book freak and you really want to gain like the most that you can from, because realistically any book worth reading should be read more than once, especially if it's like a mindset book, a personal development book. I've literally got I think I've got 4, like even here, I've got Think and Grow Rich, like this one version. I got another version up there on my bookshelf. And I know that there's another one floating around here. So like, I've got like 3 versions of the exact same book. I'm that guy. But what an amazing book club thing. Cause I was like, hey, you know what? I'm big on books. I want to go ahead and maybe put together a book club and maybe offer like some resources and some additional things to kind of get your wheel going. And then I found Secrets of Success, and I was like, I'm not doing this. If anything, I'll just recommend that, because they've put so much time, energy, and effort into it. And it's such an amazing way to, and they bring in experts within that particular field to talk about the books and some of the principles and read between the lines. And it's just like really, really cool. And for those dominators, if you're kind of excited about that and you want to check that out, I'm also going to leave a link in the video description as well as in the show notes, but it's called Secrets of Success. If you do a quick Google search, you should be able to pop that up. It's super, super cool.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. So on that note, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and hanging out here with us today. Again, for all of those dominators out there, make sure that you check out the links below. If you want to go ahead and add this to your business, or at least you want to have a conversation, definitely reach out to Bio1. And again, thank you so much for taking the time out of the day and being here with us today. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. And as always, hustle, hack, dominate. I will see you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.